I didn't notice it all at once. That's how these things happen. They don't arrive with announcements or dramatic music. They creep in quietly, disguised as hobbies. At first, it was just books. My wife, Marianne, had always liked to read. That had been one of the things I loved about her early on. She could sit curled on the couch for hours, peaceful, absorbed. It felt gentle, intellectual, harmless. Then the romance novels started, specifically the Scottish ones. She discovered them during a stressful winter. One recommendation led to another, and suddenly every spare surface in our house held a paperback featuring misty highlands, brooding men in kilts, and women who were always being swept off their feet by destiny. At first I teased her. "Should I start calling you Lady Marianne of the living room?" She laughed, kissed my cheek, promised it was just escapism. But escapism has a way of expanding. We had 3 kids, busy lives, packed schedules, homework, laundry, lunches, sports practice, real things that required real attention. And slowly, Marianne started disappearing into fictional castles instead. It began with small stuff. Dinner would be late because she lost track of time. The dishwasher wouldn't get unloaded. Permission slips sat forgotten on the counter. Then one afternoon, I got a call from the school. They'd been holding our youngest in this office for 40 minutes. Marianne had been meant to pick him up. She hadn't noticed the time. She was halfway through a dramatic chapter involving a forbidden kiss on a windswept cliff. I left work early, collected our son, and brought him home. Marianne was on the couch, blanket pulled up to her shoulders, book open on her lap. She looked genuinely surprised to see us. "Oh," she said, "I thought it was later." I remember standing there, holding my child's backpack, realizing something had shifted. After that, the pattern solidified. She forgot appointments. She cooked meals an hour or 2 late, if she cooked at all. She stopped helping with homework, stopped asking about our days. When the kids tried to talk to her, she'd murmur, "Just a second," without looking up. And that second would stretch into half an hour. They started coming to me instead. "Dad, can you sign this? Dad, can you help me with math? Dad, Mom won't get off the couch." I tried talking to her. I told her I felt alone, that the kids missed her, that real life was happening without her participation. She promised to cut back. She never did. Instead, she began talking about Scotland. Not casually, obsessively. She showed me photos of lochs and stone cottages, quoted passages from her books, started watching travel vlogs, learned bits of Gaelic. She talked about Scottish men the way people talk about wine. Tones, depth, ruggedness. I was standing right there. Our marriage had been eroding long before the books, but this accelerated it. I felt like I was competing with imaginary men written by strangers, with dramatic plot lines that didn't involve dirty dishes or school pickups. The resentment built quietly, like water behind a dam. What finally broke, it wasn't a fight. It was exhaustion. I came home one evening to find the kids eating cereal for dinner, while Marianne lay curled on the couch, lost in another chapter. I didn't yell. I just sat down at the table, looked at my children, and thought, this is not sustainable. We separated 3 months later. The divorce was surprisingly calm. She cried about losing herself. I signed papers and focused on stability for the kids. 2 weeks after everything was finalized, she booked a ticket to Scotland. She messaged me from the airport. "I need to follow my heart." Apparently, her heart lived somewhere near Edinburgh. Within days of arriving, she posted photos online with a man named Alistair. Tall, bearded, exactly what her novels promised. She wrote captions about fate and bravery and starting over. Less than a year later, they were married. Not engaged. Married. She flew home briefly for paperwork and came back wearing a ring and talking about soul connections. She had known him for under 12 months. She moved into a small house outside the city, gave up her savings, helping with repairs. took on most of the household responsibilities while he pursued creative projects. By the end of the second year, she was messaging me about how lonely she felt. Back home, I had started a new job, fresh building, new team, different pace. That's where I met Rachel. She worked 2 departments over. We started talking during lunch breaks, real conversations about schedules, about kids, about how exhausting and beautiful responsibility can be. Rachel listened. When I spoke, she actually heard me. There was no fantasy element to our relationship, no dramatic monologues, just presence. She met the kids. They liked her immediately. Not because she tried too hard, but because she noticed them, asked about their interests, showed up. Integration happened naturally. Dinner was on time. Homework got done. The house felt warm again. Meanwhile, Marianne's Scottish dream began cracking. Alistair stopped including her in his plans. She posted fewer photos. Eventually, she admitted he was distant, that she felt more like staff than spouse, that she'd lost herself again. She asked if she could come stay with us temporarily. I said no. She had chosen fantasy over family. Actions don't rewind. Rachel and I married quietly last year. Nothing dramatic. Just a small ceremony, the kids holding flowers, laughter in the backyard afterward. No castles, no kilts. Just a woman who shows up, and a life built on attention instead of escape. Marianne still sends messages about healing and lessons learned. I don't respond much, because the real lesson was simple. You don't get to abandon real people for imaginary lives and expect everything to be waiting when you return. And honestly, that's better than any novel.